What is up? This is the Barefoot Sprinter. Today we're talking about lifting real world awkward objects. And so typically that's going to happen in strongman training. Now, a lot of what I've done in the past is running and sprint work and bodybuilding and powerlifting and stuff like that. And that's been great. But the last 2 years I've gotten into Jiu Jitsu. And for whatever reason, there seems to be a shift in the training styles of people who get into martial arts. They go from mostly mirror muscles and bodybuilding and powerlifting to things like rotational and coiling exercises and things that use the core. And so there's a lot more maces and clubs and training like a strongman, so to speak. And so in these last 6 or so months, I've made a big shift to sandbags, atlas stones, awkward objects, and it's made a huge difference, both in my overall capacity and my strength and my functional strength that transfers to jiu-jitsu. We can talk about some of those, why I think that's a really valuable piece. But today, I want to talk about some of the mindset about getting into lifting some of these things. Because if you look back and look at some of these objects, this is I don't know, a circus dumbbell. This thing is really heavy. It's all metal. This is an atlas stone. It's concrete. So is this. I used to have some sandbags here, but they're moving to a new location. So we got what we're working with now. But what you typically go into the gym and you get something that's labeled. It's balanced. It's even. It's standard. We know 8 kilograms is about 16, 17 pounds. Okay, I know how much force to put into that. Or I get something like a grip bell. This is 50 pounds. Okay, it's balanced. I know. But we don't think about the fact that we're really used to having a label. This says 45, everything's standard. I know if I go to pick this up, I know what to expect. I know that if I put another 45 on, it's gonna be a little bit harder. And that's fine. But once we get to real world, like how much does a couch weigh? How much does a rock weigh? How much does a kid weigh? And we things are not even, they're not balanced, and so we don't always know what to do. And that makes it scary. And so when you go to lift awkward objects, what I want you to think about is a progressive relationship with the object. So, for example, if we're looking at a smaller atlas stone, I don't know how much this lifts. I think, for experimented with it, I think it's about probably 100 pounds, but who knows? But the point is, I don't need to pick it up right now, and I don't know exactly how much force I'm gonna have to use to pick it up. So at first, you kind of assess the object. You can kind of pick it up a little bit. You can start to think about that. And so the first time you lift it up, don't commit all the way. Because when we're used to lifting with a barbell, we're like, okay, 135, I'm gonna pick it up and stand all the way up with it. But when it comes to this kind of stuff, it's like I have to kind of get underneath it and pick it up and reposition it, and negotiate with it and hold it, and I get my hands wrapped around, and then I have to get to a strong position and stand up. That's a lot of pieces. So at first, when you're figuring things out, you kind of want to say, can I create a safer, softer space to drop it if I need to? Can I maneuver it? Can I get my hands underneath it? Can I start to shift my body around? And now this is gonna feel different because we're used to getting under a barbell and thinking, I wanna stay upright, I'm here. I put my legs down. I'm in this kind of standard position where my limbs are functioning like fulcrums. But when I have to pick up something that's lower and on the ground, I need my center of mass to get around. I need to envelop that thing. I need to Kirby it. If you're thinking Smash Brothers, I think that's Kirby. But I have to get all the way down here and really kind of hug it and assess it and figure this thing out. And so that's messier. And a lot of times if you have a lot of fear of your back, you're gonna think, oh, that's bad. But because it's an internal torque position, meaning I'm wrapping around it, all of my glutes, my adductors, my core, obliques, psoas, pecs, lats, they're all built for this internal torque. These are your efferent muscles that are big and powerful, so I can get here. But you don't start by just picking it up. You kind of have to assess it. So think about your first date. You go, ask some questions, see if they have a dog or not, get to know them a little bit, figure out the name. Okay, and then the second set, kind of pick it up, you kind of move it around, but you'll notice that every single time you go back to the object, it gets a little bit lighter. And it's not that the object is getting lighter, it's that you're getting more prepared for lifting it, and you know, oh, I need to bring this intensity. And so at first, when I picked this thing up, I could barely get off the ground. It was heavy, it was awkward, concrete. You feel all the stuff like the tension and the concrete rubbing on your skin. It just hurts. And then after doing it for a while, I was like, okay, I got that. So I started taking a first date approach to this big girl. Sweetheart Martha, I call Martha, baby Martha, Bertha, I don't know, something like that. But I started taking that first date approach here, and you notice, okay, I can pick it up. It's heavy. And then you start to think, okay, get it up here. And you can start thinking about the stuff, and you eventually work your way up to more and more confidence with the weight. And you start to get to a point where you know you can actually pick it up. And you notice that if you have 100% confidence in what you're doing, There's no fear. I'm not saying, oh, I could get hurt. I know, I can pick this up. So it's easy, no fear. So I use an effective amount of muscle. If I don't have confidence, I'm slower. So think about every single time you go back to the awkward object as another time to build up confidence. That also applies when we're looking at stuff with grip. So when we go to grip things, especially if you can't get your hand around the whole girth of the object, what happens is we have to bring more and more engagement. So there's a reason that grip is used as a test and with old people to see how close you are as a mortality test. If you have worse grip, you're more likely to die. It's also easy to test people because it's just hold this and squeeze this. But your grip is part of how much of your central nervous system you can get firing to engage for a task. So if I think about this, I go to grip. If I'm not using very much grip because I think, oh, it's just 50 pounds or it's just 45 pounds or whatever, it's gonna slide right out, all right? So I kind of have to get there and like, okay, pick it up. I didn't do it, try a little harder. But you realize that just progressively, you're getting more and more, you're really wrapping the knuckles around and you're really squeezing harder, getting the skin tougher to the point where you can pick it up and hold it. So this is a progressive thing as well, because you have to realize that your body is this living, breathing organism, right? So we kind of live up here and we think, oh, I want to go do that. But you have to get your skin ready. You have to get your, like, part of the warm-up process, part of the acclimation process to lifting things and being in this kind of like engaged setting is saying, you know, when I'm going, my skin is firmer, my pores change, I start to sweat, I increase my body temperature. So if you go from being cold to warmed up, your entire system starts to get online. You become less sensitive to pain, you become more aware of what you're doing, and you can wedge your body in. It's like with Jiu Jitsu, I'll walk in, be sore and stiff. After the warm up, in the middle of a roll, I feel amazing. And then 30 minutes after getting out of the car, I'm like, oh my God. But that's the difference of your system. So you have to think about that when it goes to training. When you're thinking about picking things up, it's never a first time like, I just got this, unless you're amped up. But you want to think, if it's hard to grip, don't just give up on it. Say, oh, I can't grip that. Because what are you going to do? If you're using a barbell or a kettlebell, oh, I can't grip this, let me grab a lighter one. We can always negotiate. But that's the challenge and the beauty of this kind of real world awkward object stuff, is that there is no lighter weight on this thing. Like, this is the thing I have to pick up. So I have to negotiate and figure it out. And you realize that every single round you bring in of determination of, I'm going to pick this thing up, it then sets your intention. And so your focus gets more, your central nervous system is more engaged, you're more turned on, and you go to actively engage and really grip and turn on that whole process. So you go from the first time, you know, it's all about the setting. So if I go in, I'm like, oh, this feels heavy, a lot of fear, oh, maybe I do this. And so then use some support. The first time I picked this, it took me weeks to be able to pick this thing up. I would use the other hand to hold it. I would use it and lift up and get to this position. But you see the confidence that happens once you get more and more control over what you're doing and what you're lifting. And so then you start to feel more capable. And that's how you go from being, you know, pretty in what you're doing. It's like, I can go and bench press, I know how to use the select rise machines, to being more confident. It's this relationship between you, your body, and the stuff you're picking up, and realize that it's never a one and done. Sometimes you have to ease yourself into it. And every single week you come back in, not only is your skin getting tougher, your calluses are developing, your hands, your ligaments, your tissue, your tendon, your fascia starting to get stronger, your muscles more engaged, your mind is more skilled, but you are getting more confident. And that's the point of all this stuff, is to have challenges. And so once you get decently skilled at handling the labeled, you know, organized stuff, take a trip over to the corner of the gym where all the awkward, weird stuff is, and start to realize that, like, oh, this is how I start to build a confidence, take the next step, because I don't need to know how much that weighs. I just need to know it's heavy. I'm gonna pick it up and move it. That's called doing work as opposed to a workout. If you like this and think I nailed it, let me know in the comments below. If you hated it and think I missed it and you think I'm a weak little pansy, let me know in the comments below. Subscribe so you don't miss future videos. And remember that you are meant for more than being in pain. If you feel like your body's stuck, I have free programs and resources for you. Hit the links in the comments below, in the description below, and I'll get you right in that. Oh, there's a video that pops up. Somewhere on the screen will be a video that pops up and takes you to free programs to get you out of pain, and we can do a whole lot more after that. Thanks so much for watching. Talk soon.